Good evening and welcome back to another edition of Beyond the Backstage Pass. I am your host, Vince Edwards. You may know me from Sound Image. And I got a couple close roadie groups on Facebook, one called Death by Loadout and another one called The Backstage Pass. Go check them out. They're kind of fun. With me tonight is the one and only, the big bad man from Muskogee. It's Kyle Thomas. How you doing, Big Daddy?
Not too fucking bad, man.
It's really good to see you.
You as well.
It's been a wacky, wild, eventful week. All kinds of cuckoo, crazy, cuckoo, nutty stuff going on. How's your week been?
It's good. It hasn't been that crazy. We're catching up. We've had some gigs come up.
You were home a couple days, buddy.
Yeah. This is great.
Don't speak
great
for me,
news.
because this place is a fucking nut house, and I love it. But, man, some days I just want to choke everybody in the building. That's not an air, right? They didn't hear that. It's not gonna go out to the people, is it?
So what he's saying is he's doing a really good job at his job
Yeah,
and just wrangling
My
all
heart
of us.
It's such a bunch of wonderful, wonderful knuckleheads. It's just a treat every day.
Hey, so quick shout out to Jeff Linder for directing today's show. Mike is off at Disneyland, so everybody say hi to Mike in Disneyland.
Let's not make him look foolish. He's also going to Universal Studios. He said something about Star Wars. So he's not just there hanging out with Mickey.
Nostalgia.
It's his girl's birthday, Stephanie's birthday.
Very sweet.
And-
He's also on a mission to bring me back a lightsaber if he goes
Is
the
that
Star
happening?
Wars route.
You getting a
so-
lightsaber?
I mean, now that you bring it up, I probably am going to harass him, yeah.
My question to you is, what good is a single lightsaber?
I mean, you know how
They
many
should come
people
in
I could
twos,
annoy
so
with
then
that?
I can whip your ass with your very own lightsaber. Don't you think that would be appropriate?
I could get you every
right
time
here
you get out
on
of
the
the
Pablo
bathroom.
Cruz carpet. Just get out there in front of the cameras and get down.
If somebody wants to buy us 2 lightsabers, if Mike doesn't come back with one, we will.
Send
At
them
the
in.
beginning of one show,
We've got
me
them
and
weird as
Vince
shit.
will attack each other with
We,
lightsabers.
we only have the one samurai sword, which I think was very wise when I came to Japan.
That was from
there was,
Isaac,
there was going
that's
to be
right.
some shit jumping off right here. It's already sketchy enough with the menagerie of death, but
So, anyways, happy
but-
birthday to Stephanie.
Yes.
That's Mike's lovely girlfriend, and
I'd like to
we're
double
happy
down on the
for him.
Jeffrey thing, though. I pulled him in. It's Jeff Linder. He's a badass. He gets up to some like real deal shit. This is like small nickels for him, and to drag him in out of nowhere, I reached out to him in a huff, and he was like, "Yeah, when, where, how?" And
I know,
he's
isn't he
just
the
that
best?
kind of guy. So thank you, Jeffrey. We
We love
really
you, Jeff.
appreciate you, man. You're a badass. You were saying.
yeah. Also, fucking drum roll. We have merch. We have
What?
merch that will be out by
Mhm.
Christmas.
No.
And the starting, we got some sweatshirts made up, but we also got these lovely coffee mugs that they also double time as a small tobacco pipe. So while you're having your morning cup of coffee, you can also hit the bowl in the morning, you know?
You know, I asked you to go about that in a slightly less on the nose way. Took it right, just bounced right in. That was sweet. It's a mug that has some weird extra attributes that he was down with, and I was like, "That's kind of clever." And he put a sticker on it, and I was like, well,
It was
that kinda-
Vince's
that
idea.
was oh man, he dragged me down to the mall. We had to buy like 60 of them. That's cool, man. Go with your bad self. So listen, we got some appointment viewers here that we really enjoy. Ian Peacock comes right to mind, wouldn't you say?
Yo,
I remember when we first
I
were
think
sitting
he
at the
deserves
table
one.
doing this, you're like, Ian gets the first one.
that's right.
And that was very sweet of you, and I couldn't agree more. This guy it's 3 a.m. where he's at. It's he's in Great Britain, Scotland, and we love the guy. So Ian, we're gonna send some across the water to you. We got some hoodies coming down the line. They should be here before Christmas. We ordered all different sizes, and they're
That's
very-
right. It's got your big face on the back. It looks really good.
It's
guys.
obnoxious and narcissistic at the same time. Which I guess they're kind of kissing
Well,
cousins.
no.
so that
Everybody
works
wants
out.
a little Vince
Yeah,
to
it's-
be harassing
I'm
them on their
everything.
back
I just-
24/7.
Out of control.
We also got this nice sweatshirt from the Signal Illinois boys.
The boys from Signal Illinois
They
took this up.
sent us a nice little podcast sweaty, which was very kind of them. It looks very nice material.
Yeah, it's a nice heavy duty. It's well constructed.
if you
I
can
dig
see
them
that.
for making good choices on that, and I highly suggest you guys goes to their merch site because Signal Noise has got a very professional. You can get all kinds of caps and everything. I mean, it's really cool. So if you guys are down with Signal Noise, and I can't see why you wouldn't be. It's an excellent podcast with some really great content.
Yeah, and
They have
speaking
some amazing merch. Reach out to them.
speaking about some podcast, Party Like a Rock Star podcast with Joel Madrid.
Yeah.
we're gonna be on that. What is that, next week?
I think we're nailing it down right now because Pooch is out with ZZ Top and the boys are spread all around, the different guys that also have podcasts like Chris Leonard from Signal to Noise. But they've agreed, loosely agreed on the 13th or the 15th of December when we can all kind of trying to get all 4 of us or 5 of us on the same page is a little tricky. And with a special little added treat because we thought, well, we didn't think, we knew that as having 4 different leads to 4 different podcasts that we were going to spend an hour just tearing each other apart, that we thought we should bring a mediator in. So I reached out to Rick Allen from Def Leppard. He's like, oh yeah, I want to come in there and beat anybody that doesn't follow my lead. And he will, the God of Thunder will bring it. And so we're going to have Rick Allen come in and he's going to moderate for us and keep us all in line. So
It's going to be fun.
We're going to have Pooch from Iron Maiden and who he's historically known for being with, and since they're on hiatus right now, he's out with ZZ Top handling that work, and Chris Leonard from Signal to Noise, and Joel Madrid from Party Like a Rock Star, and help me, it's Larry, is it Milbourne from Roadie Free Radio.
Roadie Free
And
Radio.
actually, he's got an amazing thing that's going on, and I feel bad that I stepped on that because what he's doing is important, and he's been doing it for a long time, and he's an interesting cat. So I haven't had a personal chance to know him. I've just seen his work. And so it'll be interesting to get together with him and all of us kind of speaking about what motivates us and why we do what we do. And it should be a lot of fun. So look out for it. We'll advertise it as we get closer to it, but it's going to be on the podcast known as Party Like a Rock Star by Joel Madrid. Yeah.
Hey, and our other favorite ponytail is out in Vegas, Bernie.
Ah, the
Bernie is out in Vegas right now.
Bernie Dougal, he's got his place with us. And, Bernie Broderick, just so we remind you, is a loudspeaker designer legend. He's a legend in the game. This is K1, K2, E15 from Adamson, L Acoustics, the rig that's sitting right behind me, which, of course, is Tom Petty's rig. He helped in an impressive team. It's probably the most advanced loudspeaker system in the world. He's a badass. He's a genius. He's the resident genius. He's scooted down to Vegas to his other property to pick up, he said he's going to pick up 3 of his many motorcycles. So he's took like a van and a little trailer with him. He's going to go down there and, Bernie, he's always
proper. It's just so we could all go get lunch together on the bikes. That's why you're getting them, right, Bern?
I'm taking the Ducati then. I'm going to crash that by the time we get to the corner.
He claimed it.
He'll
He's
love
getting
it.
the Ducati.
There's 2 of them. You could have the other one. You got to talk to Bern.
All right, I'm claiming the
But when
other
there's 2, I know for sure I'm getting 1. we can fight over it. We'll work it out.
Bern's going to love this.
Yeah, I'm sure he's excited this very minute listening to us. I guarantee he is. Hi, Bird.
Hi.
And we wanted to send on a serious note because it's weird. Life is a funny thing. It just rolls the way it rolls. But he was getting ready to leave yesterday. And I had an occasion to talk to him early in the day. And he said, I'm over at my chick he's got this wonderful girl, Caroline. And I guess her mother passed away yesterday. And she lived with Caroline. And so Bernie was close to her. And so Bernie moved his plans forward a little bit so he could stay with his girl and be there in that moment. So, our deepest condolences to Caroline, Bernie's girl, for this loss. It's just tragic, and it's just the way of things. People of our age, unfortunately, have to come to expect certain losses. Our idols, people we came up with, musicians, it could be actors, it could be our other family members. It just starts to be a reality that we have to deal with. So our deepest condolences out there.
Many blessings.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Well, man, thank you for having me on the show. It's been a while since I've seen you guys.
I got sick for a minute. I had a little staph infection that kind of took me to the hospital for a second. I was Rocktober just it kicked my ass for real. Like it threw me around. I was doing 40 or 50. I don't know how many days straight, but it just was a straight run all the way through from whatever the October into November, and so I had to check out for a minute and recoup and lay down. Actually.
Yeah, and I think my Thursdays are opening up too. So I know we got a big batch of shows coming up pretty soon. I mean, rolling on. I think it's a good solid month and a half that we're booked out. So we'll go back to our normal scheduled programming here.
Yeah, so you got some amazing people coming up. We're super looking forward to it. But I'm really glad to have you back. I missed you for a minute there. We won't go into depth into that, but it was a kind of a thing, like a thing was happening, and so I'm really glad you're back.
Thanks,
and having you around. And I'm glad you did well. And John Legend, all the reports came back from that you killed that tour, and we appreciate it. From Sound Image, thank you for doing such a good job and representing us well out there. I am gonna with your permission, I am going to get into this interview because we have some serious shit going on, and I'm gonna need to knuckle down and focus in on this thing. Okay, so I'm gonna run
Picked
along
another
now.
gold
I
nugget
know
for us,
I get
bud.
very, very lucky. I'm just gonna say that. All right, listen. Thank you, brother.
Absolutely.
Good evening. Thank you for being here this evening. I feel really, really fortunate, blessed even, and I hate words like that. You know, vibes, blessed is just hokey, mushy shit. But this person is extraordinary. I've been reading her book over the last many days, and it is dense and incredible and layered and nuanced. And man, if you're a fan of reading, I can't tell you this enough. This is a page turner. The book is called Loud. It's by the great Tana Douglas. She is considered. No, I'm going to read from prepared notes. Maybe that will do it better justice because I'm freelancing here, and I think I could do better. My guest tonight is a true pioneer in this industry. She is known for far and wide as the first female roadie. Now, I've kind of researched that a little bit. It's true. Like, really, like, I wanted to really dig down in that.
I'm that old.
No, I remember you started, we talked about it, you started like, you were about 4.
That's
got
right.
on the wrong bus, you know, off you went with AC/DC. She went from working in sound for AC/DC in 1973 and went on to work with some of the biggest shows in the world and transitioned into the lighting side of the game and really was there for some of the early transformation of lighting and the live rock promotion and production. It's a really exciting and she was right there firsthand for many things. She's really a lady of first. She's an amazing person. She came all the way here from LA to talk to us again about her amazing book, Loud. Where can we get Loud at?
You know, you can get it online. You can order it at a different, you could just Google Tana Douglas Loud and it pops up at a bunch of different things. It's actually getting released here in the States in August.
Fantastic.
So, and obviously in the UK and stuff as well, because it came out of Australia first.
Yes, ma'am. And I honestly, I can't recommend this enough. First of all, let me welcome the amazing Tana Douglas. Hello, Tana. Thanks for being
Hi.
here.
Thanks for having me.
Such a lovely treat. So very, very wonderful. I really, when I stay, I'm a man of that's been known to be somewhat hyperbolic in my phrasing of things. I try to get the best out of people with being kind. But really, I read a lot. I read a lot of books. I had just gotten done reading a book about our dear friend Greg Price and his gang from another writer. It was a very good book. But you have an ability to turn a phrase. You keep me. I mentioned before we went on the air. I've had to run people off of my office saying, "I'm busy. You kept me in the middle of like one of your stories, one of your minutes, one of your moments of your life that were so fascinating. And I was just like, it was just absolutely extraordinary. Before I run on into quite a wordy little adventure that I have here, before we got on air, you mentioned to me a really wonderful development. I mean, it just couldn't be better. It sounds like there's a potential that this book, Loud, is going to be turned into a documentary. Is there any truth to that?
There is, and you've got the scoop here. So you guys get to hear it first. Yeah, I just literally signed the contract last night.
Nice.
So, and it's now been so it's basically a deal for development to a documentary. So we've still got film rights and all that sort of stuff going, but the documentary I thought was really important to get out first, because I think the way the book's written, it's about the industry, it's about the people in the industry and stuff, and I think it's really time there is a documentary about us. You know what I mean? And what we do.
Yeah, well, particularly from this perspective, first of all, we were also talking before the show. This is something we do with the guests, but I hate to keep referring back, and I might not even get into the questions. Because I was mentioning to you that, I've had a lengthy career kind of coming up from a certain place, and I feel like I have some stories I could tell. And what do we got going on now? Hang on. That man's touching me up.
He's
you guys.
goosing you.
I like it when I like it when this happens. It's one of my favorite parts of this whole thing. What exactly is going on? Should I grab a knife? Do I need to touch it? I don't know. I'm just a talent. I just write shit and pay for things. It's
We're just lonely, man. We're just lonely.
The rest of it.
He's lonely.
Thank you, Kyle, whatever that was. I appreciate it. I can't remember stuff as well as I wish I could, and the times and the dates and the names, and I have a loose, but man,
It's not easy. It's really not easy.
It's extraordinary. You credit most of the people involved. You know the times and places.
Well, yeah, but it took a while to get there.
Oh, I bet.
It took a while to get there, yeah, because I never kept a diary or a journal or anything like that.
Yeah.
I always thought if anyone read it, they'd probably lock me up. They go, she's crazy, let's lock her up.
Yeah. And I think they made a couple of crimes written down in here.
Exactly. So, I mean, I just did this whole 3 walls of my house and divided it into years and then into months and cross references. Itineraries were a huge help.
Yeah.
Itineraries were a huge help. Yeah. But no, it's a lot of work and it's tricky, because you know how it is. You do one tour and then you get pulled off onto another show halfway through a tour because there's a problem over there.
Right.
So they pull you over to do that, and then something happens there, and then you get jumped off to something else.
Absolutely.
Then you're back at the tour again, and I just because you've got to make it in a way where there's continuity, so people who don't tour understand, like, where the hell is she now? What's going on?
Well, you stitch it together in a way that it's very readable, it's very relatable and understandable. I think it helps maybe having a little bit of backstage experience where you can kind of imagine yourself or something similar that you've experienced.
Yeah.
And so, but it's eminently accessible, I think, to anybody could read this and really take a ride with it. It's super fun, and there's some ups and downs in there. There's some real life shit going on, and you were very honest about many things in your life, and I found it to be very bold and very. I don't know. It just gripped me, and I'm still not done, frankly, as we talked about. I still got maybe the back quarter of this thing to get through, and I just ran out of time. But man, what I've written so far, I've really loved, and I promise to finish the book. I thought it was clever that you named your chapters after song titles.
Oh, yeah.
Relatable song titles that kind of tied into the chapter.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
there's a playlist that goes with it as well. There's all sorts of stuff going on.
Yeah. There was a lot of consideration going on, and it really plays out well in the book.
It's music. It's all music.
Yeah. London Calling and Under Pressure. It goes on, and and they make sense. It totally ties in, and I didn't think about that aspect of it, but yeah, you could kind of make the playlist out.
It's in the book, the back of the book.
I haven't got there yet. but it's a great playlist. I'm going to have to make that son of a bitch up.
Absolutely. It's on Spotify. It's called Loud. So if you go...
Oh, then I don't even have to work. I can
No, you can just jump right on and take all the credit. Say, look what I did.
I will absolutely do that. At least amongst my crew, they won't know any better. They don't watch the show. They couldn't care less, So there's no way to really jump into a conversation with you without talking about AC/DC. I just don't see a way, to get around it. It's AC/DC. You were there in their truly formative years. I mean, before
Absolutely.
AC/DC was AC/DC as we understand them. I mean, really at the early days of AC/DC. What was it like being, and I've been fortunate enough to be in the early days of certain bands that went on to be astronomical and just, stratospheric. What was it like being with the kids, the guys from AC/DC? Gosh, this was back 73, 74?
It's 74.
Yeah.
74, yeah. So it's, I actually got the job as their first roadie. Doing backline was my first job with them. Before they had Phil Rudd, the drummer, and Mark Evans, the bass player.
Right.
So they were still looking. They'd started recording the album.
Yeah.
But they hadn't actually got the full band, and Brother George, he'd play bass. And,
Right.
Every day we'd rehearse. We all lived together as well. So we all lived in this house in St Kilda. And it was, it was incredibly formative, you know what I mean? Because we were all so young.
Yeah.
And we were all just getting started. And to be living together 24/7 and just like growing up together, really. You know what I mean?
Well,
so it's,
and the Youngs were kind of a specific group. They were they're like a clan almost. They were very tight knit. This wasn't like every band you've ever been in.
No.
These guys had their own way. So there's George, there's Malcolm, there's Angus.
Yeah. And if you're in, you're in.
Yeah.
And I guess obviously I was in.
Yeah, well,
because I'm in the house.
Yeah.
So so started doing their backline, then we got the full band together and that sort of thing. So that was exciting. And then one day they've gone, you know what, we need a bigger PA because, we're just using PAs at the different venues,
Sure.
And so with the amount of volume that was coming off, the guitar stacks, it was like, we've got to get Bond's vocals up,
Right.
So we need a bigger PA. And it's like, Charlie, go and pick up this PA. And it's like, oh, okay. Backline person. Okay, yeah, I'll go and pick it up,
Yeah.
And then I bring it back to the house and all of a sudden it's like, oh, by the way, you're now the front of house sound person. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Does this thing come with a book? No, it doesn't.
No.
So, I mean, by comparison to what you guys have got going on. You know, it was a basic three-way system, you know, but, you know, it did the job for a while. Then we got W bins in as well, so we could beef it up even a bit more.
Sure.
So, you know, it was there, you know, and that was, you know, how I learned to do sound. Oh, and of course, doing the monitors from the front of house as well.
Fold back.
Just what you want to do.
Oh, so
exactly.
fun. Good
with
times.
a band like AC/DC.
Wall of distortion. I mean,
Let's do the monitors from the front of house as well. You know, so it was so. But you know, the logic to it was, look, you've been with us from the beginning. You know what we want. You know what we like, and you know what we don't like. So they presumed I was the obvious choice. You know, which. I didn't, but you know, I went with it, and I guess it worked. You know.
Yeah. Well.
So yeah, it was. I mean, it was great. You know, and I was learning something else, so I was excited. You know.
Well, you know, you're a pioneer, and so it seems like you were at the front or the forefront of a lot of things that were happening or developing in real time. And it seemed like, in reading in the book, that there was a lot of moments that you were just kind of dropped into places because apparently you got along well with folks, and they appreciated it. Clearly, they thought you had a certain capabilities and competence, and so they would drop you into these things.
I was constantly dropped into
Yes,
stuff.
yes. You kind of became a rigger on the fly.
Because I didn't trust the rigger. It was like, I'm not standing under this guy.
I love the part in the book where the guy drops out of the ceiling, and you guys are like, well, we still need that steel up there.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You went up and on the shaky, rattly,
At Wembley,
catwalk.
yeah. That was at Wembley Empire Pool.
Yeah.
That's a dodgy grid in itself, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when this was still alive when I got into the business. You know, it was I was a guitar tech, but you don't get to just be a guitar tech. And then this is how you were. You know, when you came up, you kind of did a little bit of everything.
Yep.
Everything was expected of you. And to cover many, many bases, it was whatever was in need at the time. And I think we've lost a little bit of that in our profession. You know, everything's so specialized now. So
yeah, everything's departmentalized, and don't touch that, it's theirs, and you know what I mean. And it's and I think it's a bit of a shame, really, because I think, you know, especially the younger people coming up, you know, they could learn so much more and diversify, you know, and I think it's really important, actually, that they know more than one field,
yes.
you know, or at least be able to overlap, you know, and help lift the damn thing.
Exactly. Well, we try to cross-train in here as much as we can. Now, we don't necessarily go interdepartmental. Like right now, we're sitting in half of my building that is the lighting company.
Right.
It's part of Sound Image Productions. There's no differentiation except for there's all lighting on this side and there's all lighting on that side.
Well, you got to do that.
Yeah. But with the audio kids, for example, when you came in, you saw a bunch of folks working. What they were doing was cable maintenance. I'm teaching them how to actually understand how to repair things in case it breaks down in real time. So here we do try to take them from the ground up and build them as best we can. Yeah. Now, eventually they might become the RF wrangler, or they might be a front of house person, and they might be some white glove dude. But in the steps here, you're going to have to work your way there.
Well, they've got to know it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I say to anyone, like if I'm mentoring someone or whatever, you know, it's like, don't just learn how to do it, learn why you're doing it.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Why are you doing it that way?
Yeah.
Because tomorrow it's going to be different.
That's right.
You know? And if you only know how to do it one way because you think that's the right way and that's what you were taught, you're in for a terrible shock.
And you're going to wash yourself out of the business because the continual growth doesn't happen, particularly in the digital age where everything's changing over every 12 to 24 months. Yeah. You know, you're literally getting a new board and a new workflow and signal, and it's a thing.
Exactly.
So I just couldn't recommend it enough.
Branch out.
Yes, absolutely. And your whole career is just the story of branching out. I wanted to talk to you really quick. I don't want to linger too long on AC/DC, although it was an amazing time in your life and you got so much accomplished with it. But you had I don't think a lot of people understand the dynamics of AC/DC. I don't think they understand that Malcolm was a critically important part to that band. That he was kind of he was the thinker. He was the guy who.
It was his baby.
Yeah.
I mean, it was his baby from day one.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he groomed Angus.
Yeah.
He showed Bon what he needed from Bon.
Yeah.
You know, he told, you know, he wouldn't hire a bass player or a drummer unless, you know, I mean, when they were auditioning, for example, you know, it was a two-part thing, the auditions. You know? The first one, they didn't even get to plug in. They just talked, which was great because most of them talked themselves right out the door. You know? So it was like, thank God for that. We don't have to listen. You know? Yeah. So, and because he wanted to know where they thought they were going to fit in the band and how they thought their role was going to be and stuff. And if it wasn't, what he saw, then there was no point them even plugging in.
Yeah.
So it was his baby from day one. Yeah, absolutely. It was his completely. I mean, Brother George, obviously, as a producer and as their older brother,
Yeah.
Was a huge influence.
And he had some accomplishments of his own at the time, right?
Yeah, Easy Beats was
Easy
his band, and they did really well in the UK and Europe and Australia. I think they really only had one hit here, which was Friday on My Mind.
Right.
But they've done, but apart from that, I mean, they produced, through the 70s and the 80s, Vanda and Young, which is the team of producers, they produced like 90% of all the hits that came out of Australia.
It's incredible.
I mean,
It's
and
incredible.
all different genres, whether it was pop or rock or, AC/DC, like really heavy stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, incredibly talented. Incredibly
Absolutely.
talented.
Yeah.
For a family that was a working class family that had no musical training.
Yeah, they really came up the hard way,
Yeah.
and I don't think a lot of people understand that.
Yeah.
I think some of their height, their height was related to their nutrition when they were kids. I mean,
I was the tallest one in the band. And girls would come around to do our laundry and stuff.
Yeah.
And I stopped putting my stuff in because my jeans were bigger than everyone else's. It was like, oh, God.
let's preface that because I think either one, it was either Malcolm or Angus was 5'1" and 5'3". I mean, they were diminutive. They were little guys.
They're little guys.
Yeah.
They're very
And-
little guys. Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of people don't understand that. Angus is what he became, which is almost kind of a monster.
Oh.
Was not who Angus was. He was a shy little kind of behind the scenes
He was
guy.
quiet. He was intense though. He was always intense with his guitar. He was intense, and he was very serious, like from day one about it. I mean,
Yeah.
exactly. But he took his lead from Malcolm.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, as he grew into his persona,
Yeah.
which was directed towards him. But he created it. I mean, we created a monster with that one. Too,
Oh, my God, 'cause
And more credit to him. I mean, he's the gnarliest
Absolutely.
schoolboy in the world. Still to this day.
And I tell you what, those shows when he gets going and starts doing his his little it's something, and he really makes them more exciting. I think visually, the music does its own work. It's already in the light show, and you know how big they roll now.
Absolutely.
But man, when he starts doing his thing, the whole place just loses their
It
mind.
goes nuts. Exactly.
yeah,
I mean,
and
he's
it's
a phenomenon.
They really know how to bring the show. I mean,
Yeah.
these are professional badasses, and you were right there at the beginning. I found there was a lot of stories, a lot of places to dig around. But I found one place that I thought was adorable was the time you guys were at an event, and I believe Deep Purple were headlining.
Oh.
And
Sunbury Festival.
yes, and there was a little bit of a scrap about who was going to go in which part of the lineup and who was going to do what. How did that
Absolutely.
turn out? Tell us about that.
Yeah. Deep Purple were headlining it. They'd come to Australia to headline this festival that had been happening. I think it was the third time the festival had happened, and they just started bringing international bands in.
Yeah.
It's a weekend thing. It went for over 3 days. And so Purple gets there. It was the only show they were doing in Australia, and they bought, they had all the extra lighting and their own soundboard in and all that sort of stuff. And as the headliners, they go on last, but they've decided that they didn't want to go on after AC/DC.
Probably a wise decision.
And AC/DC's gone, well, no, this is the show we were booked.
Yeah.
And they didn't really mind them going on before them, but what Deep Purple then said was, but you've got to wait until we strike all the lights in the PA before you can do your set, which is ridiculous.
Total horseshit.
I mean, it was just,
Yeah.
and it was threatening to rain and all sorts of shit.
Yeah.
So, idiot here still doing back line, at the time. So I run out, set up the back line. It's like, okay, we start miking it, and then all of a sudden I get word, pull it. What? Pull it. And I'm like, God, did I mess up? Is there someone else meant to be on? What's going on?
Right.
So pull it really quick, and I see him over in the corner there, and it's like, so I sort of go over, and then they've gone, okay, set it up again, set it up. It's like, oh, fuck. Set it up again. And of course, by this time, the audience has figured out I'm a girl.
Yeah.
So they're like, Sheila, throwing shit. It's like, oh, God. And then it's like, pull it. It's like, oh, fuck. So I run over again. And it's like, okay, what the hell's going on? And then, of course, everyone's getting all heated, and, there's a bit of a scuffle that starts, and was it intentional? Probably not. You know what I mean? But Angus gets shoved,
Uh-oh.
And the Young clan go back to back, 3 of them. like in a circle,
Yeah, that's-
and they just go off.
I
And
bet.
of course, then Bond jumps in because he's like, oh, I could do this,
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, shit. So I jump in. We all jump in, and of course, we end up not playing. Purple plays and they bomb, and it was a nightmare. We got all the press and we were the only ones who didn't pay. No one got paid, so it didn't really matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of course, though. A couple of years later, I'm in London by this time.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we got this tour for you to go out on. It's a band called Whitesnake. And I'm like, Whitesnake? Who's Whitesnake? Oh, okay. And then all of a sudden I realize it's like, it's all the Deep Purple guys and the tour manager and everyone. I'm like, oh.
Shit. I'm really glad you made the segue there to tie that in, because that is and you kind of went under the radar on that, huh? They didn't put it together.
Well, they didn't quite put it together. And the funny thing is, like, I mean, their tour manager, Wooly Fife, he's a Scottish tour manager, and he's done like Dio and all sorts of people,
Yeah.
And we're still good buddies to this day, but he laughs about it all the time. He's like, yeah, well, how did that really happen? It's like, how did that fight really start? I don't know. Why wasn't that?
You mentioned that you were on stage and you were doing the set change over and over, back and forth, and you said that they realized I was a female and they were yelling Sheila this and that, which is can be pejorative in an Australian slang.
Yeah.
And I know that early in your career that you did experience trouble with security officials, promoters, some band members, some crew members.
Yeah.
How did you deal with that?
You got to choose your fights. You know what I mean? You got to figure out,
That's right.
is it really worth fighting? And it's easier sometimes. I mean, I was fortunate enough to have some of the like A-team people in Australia on my side. Like they figured out, I think I was like this little stray cat, you know what I mean? A little kitten, what
They
do you
were
do?
protective of
You've
you.
given it a saucer of milk, now it's not going away. Jesus, what are we going to do with it? So then they figured out that I could actually do the job, and I was really keen to do it. So they'd encourage me,
Yeah.
So that kind of made it a little bit less difficult. There was still always the naysayers, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But they were careful what they said, because there was a team of guys who were going to beat the shit out of them if they got too out of line,
Absolutely perfect.
But I mean, they try still, you know what I mean? And I mean, I have chased the odd person around a venue with a scaff pipe and stuff, going, you fucking, I'll kill you. But, you've got to sort of learn a way not to have to do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
You've got to get a little bit of decorum, which I was lacking severely for a long time. But, because my mentality was, if I act like one of the boys, look like one of the boys, drink like one of the boys, swear like one of the boys, then they won't even notice.
Yeah.
And it kind of worked.
I think it was from what I got from the book as I was reading through, and then the many different adventures and because you really quickly would jump from event to event, from tour to tour.
Yeah.
And you kept yourself pretty busy, especially in the first part of your career, which I've been able to review. It seemed like that it was just that you just came complete, and you were competent and you were strong and you did your work, and I think that's where it's like with any of us really. I know there was bias in the mix, as it relates to males pulling their shit, and this is still something that is unfortunate that it happens in our industry to some degree.
It does.
I think that's getting less and less, but of course it's still there on some level.
Yeah.
But I think from what I can tell, and the acceptance that you had, particularly just through the work experience that you gathered and were able to do, it seems like it was because you were kicking ass and you were taking names, and
Well, I kept working too, because I had that sort of in the back of my mind always that if I stop working, they'll hire someone else.
Yeah.
So I just go from one tour to another tour to another tour, and like not have any time off. I didn't have a place that I lived in for years. You know what I mean? It was like just a totally nomadic existence. You know what I mean? And it was just, but that was me getting my foot in the door and keeping it there.
Yes.
Because I thought if I stopped, then, I'm going to have to fight to get back in again. You know what I mean? So if I just jumped from one to the other, they'd be so used to seeing me.
It was like perpetual motion and just kept going.
It's her again.
Yeah. No, it's impressive as all hell.
And so then, I sort of, and again, once I stopped working for bands and started working focusing really on production companies, they figured out really quickly that if they made me the crew chief, that everyone else would work harder. Because they didn't want to be shown up by a girl. So
Interesting.
he's like, hang on.
Yeah, it just gave me a couple ideas right there. Straw boss a couple of the gals over for us. Just say, you got this. Take them down, because whatever it takes to get the job done.
Absolutely. So it was, I'd be loading trucks, rigging, doing all sorts of things, and then everyone else would just keep up, and it was like, okay, because no one wants to be showing up,
Yeah. Well.
So and that wasn't the goal. The goal wasn't to show anyone up, but the goal was to just learn as much and do as much as I could, and then once I'd learned it, then to pass that on, So as I brought in new people, because once you become a crew chief, then obviously you can pick your crews and do that sort of stuff, and you bring in young people and you train them,
Yeah.
and some of them have gone on to have wonderful careers.
Oh yeah, no, some of the people you worked with are kind of the who's who and the what's what of what we've got going now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you've worked with amazing people. I'm going to wander around in your career with some of the early acts that you work with, because they're impressive. I mean, there's so many places I could go with, like Neil Diamond, who was one of my favorite writers of all time. He's just extraordinary. And kind of a paradox, you mentioned his satin get-ups and his way, but there's this New York part of it. I'm not sure what that moment was for him, but I've always thought him as the guy in the denim and, the kind of the New York Jew guy that just had this extraordinary capability to write. But so I wanted to talk to you about Leo Sayer. No, not well understood in our country, I don't think. He had his moment here, but what a talent. I mean,
he really is. He really is a talent. He was the second international tour that I did. So I did Susie Quattro was the first one, and then Leo Sayer.
Yeah,
and he was actually such a pleasure. And there were some incredible people on that crew who became lifelong friends. It was Smoother, Chris Smythe.
Yeah,
he was on it.
Yeah,
Paul Newman. Claire,
Brothers, Vice President.
And I mean other people as well, but I'm not sure how well they'd be known by other people. But
those two names ring out big time in our industry. Yeah.
And it was like Leo was a Just a Boy tour, so that was when he had his first big hits and stuff. And he is an amazing talent, and just the nicest guy. I mean, there's something sort of childlike about him, like an innocence to him. I don't know if it's still there now. I haven't seen him for a long time. He lives in Australia now, actually. He's retired down there,
Wow.
But so I'll have to look him up and see.
Yeah, it made an impression, obviously.
But he was a real sweetheart, actually. Yeah,
pretty
definitely.
wonderful. Amazing talent. I know my mom was a big fan, and and we grew up with a really musical house. So there was always music playing. So and mostly singer-songwriter types, So we had Carol Blair, Stay on Neil Sedaka, Neil Diamond, and so we always had amazing music going on. Paul Williams, and I think we were lucky enough to get our first kind of musical education as very young people in the '70s, listening to mom's music.
Yeah, exactly.
And some of it was extraordinary.
Yeah.
So I have to talk to you about Iggy Pop. Now, I've had experience with Iggy, and usually very enjoyable. A band of mine that's a good friend of mine it's called Queens of the Stone Age.
Yeah.
Really idolized Iggy, and they went out and acted as his back. Iggy always has dragged somebody into the mix,
Exactly.
And so they went out in red suits, red tuxes, and stood behind Iggy and let him spaz out for a whole tour. But he's such a mixed bag. He's he's a very complicated guy in a very good way. But he's yay tall, and he turns sideways and he kind of disappears.
Absolutely.
He's just a tiny, thin little guy.
Little twig that wrote raw power.
But my God, he can really go in. He can punish an audience.
He's intense.
He's
intense.
Those eyes, and it's just like, tell us about your experience with Iggy. I know you did some stuff with it.
Yeah, I did the TVI tour, which was just after the Lust for Life. So Bowie was meant to be on that tour. Bowie had done the previous tour, the Lust for Life tour, and he was supposed to come out and do this one with Iggy as well, but they'd had a parting of the ways.
Yeah.
And so what he did is he brought out MC5.
Yeah,
so
the great
there was
MC5,
Fred Sonic Smith, and there was the bass player and the drummer, I believe. And then there was also Scotty Thurston, who ended up with Tom Petty forever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was an amazing band, and Iggy's at the front. But the whole thing was MC5, Fred thought it was going to be co-billing.
Yeah.
And, of course, Iggy's like, it's me, So it was a little rough. It was a little rough at the beginning. I wasn't even meant to do the tour, actually. My roommate had just landed the gig as the tour manager, and they were rehearsing in London, and in this grotty old place in the Arches, and the PA was buzzing all the time, and they couldn't stop the buzz, and so they kept calling for the tour manager, going, "Someone's got to come and fix this. This is fucking ridiculous,"
Yeah.
And and of course, in those days, I'd pick up the phone. It's like, and I couldn't find him I couldn't find Jack anywhere, and it was like, what are we going to do? And of course, the calls are getting, more and more frequent and less sort of apologetic. You know what I mean? So it's like, so I thought, well, you know what? I'll go down there and see if I can fix anything.
Yeah,
so,
help out.
so I wandered down there, and it's bucketing down rain as it does in London. And it's like, and it was actually my 21st birthday.
Yes, it was your birthday, wasn't it?
It was my 21st birthday.
Yes.
And I was kind of, because I'd never told anyone how old I was the whole time, because I'd started so young, and
Sure.
and again, even when I'd moved to England, I was 17 and crossing borders with rock and roll bands and stuff like that, so I was never quite sure if that was legal or not, so I thought I'd best not mention it,
Yeah.
So by the time I got to 21, I thought, well, I best not make a big deal out of it, because then they might figure out all those years before.
Right.
It's like, oh God.
Right.
So I was like, oh, whatever, So anyway, we go down there. Finally, we sort out the problem. In a bit of a dodgy way, but we sort out the problem. And, so I leave, but I get to hear the show. I get to hear some of the songs, and I'm thinking, this guy's amazing. This guy has this feline sort of prowling, predatory type thing about him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, who is this guy? I had no idea. I'd grown up with AC/DC. They don't listen to punk.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to. I didn't get to hear any of that stuff,
Sure.
So, I get a call the next day, and basically it's like, Iggy wants you to come down. They're having a thing at the record label. He wants you to come down. He wants to say thank you for sorting it out, and I'm like, oh, isn't that sweet, So I go down, and it's RCA was the label, which was HMV, the Nipper dog.
Yeah, the dog.
The dog.
Named Nipper.
Nipper.
Let's be clear about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And anyway, this head guy at the record label does this because Iggy's sick of this record label. He's fulfilled all his albums that he needs to do. He wants out.
Yeah.
They're trying to pretend everything's okay, and they're trying to suck up to him and do all sorts of stuff, So they give him this Nipper dog, the full size one. No one ever gets a full size Nipper. No one. You get these little ones, these little Nippers, you know. And they give this full size one to Iggy, and Iggy's like, looks at it. He looks at me and he goes, "Happy birthday, T," and gives me Nipper. And I'm like, oh, Nipper, yay. The record label's like,
what just happened?
And we all just giggle and run away. It's like, okay, we got to go now. Thanks, bye.
Get the hell out of there.
Who the hell's she? Can we get that back from her? No, it's hers now.
Yeah.
So and then he decides it'd be a good idea for me to come on the tour, and it's like, well, I had 2 weeks off between. Actually, I was heading down to Australia with a band, and his tour was only 2 weeks. I think it was 2 weeks. What did I have? I had 3 weeks total, and I think his tour was something like 18 days or something. So I could just fit it in. It gave me 1 day off before I had to get on a plane to get to Australia. So, sure, I'll do it. So off we go around Europe with Iggy, and it was weird, because he was upset that Bowie wasn't there. The band was sort of, gradually falling into place, but it was a good experience for me. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed working with him. And they kind of had me wrangling him a little bit, because he was out of control, and as he is,
Yeah.
and he liked me. So, they do that, but then of course there's no point keeping him happy if when he gets to the stage everything's not right. So then I have to do the stage management thing, and then I have to do the front of house and cue and the follow spots and all this sort of stuff. So I end up doing like 3 different jobs, you know what I mean?
Jeez.
And they fired my roommate, the tour manager, which wasn't good.
Yeah.
That wasn't good. He thought for some reason I had something to do with that. I had nothing to do with that.
Better.
He should have known better, but he was just pissed at the time.
Yeah.
But if he'd been on the tour, he would have known better.
Yeah.
He probably would have left anyway.
I was going to say dodged a bullet,
Yeah, exactly. He should have said thank you.
Yeah.
But,
did him a favor.
But yeah, so that was unfortunate. But yeah, but I had this leather jacket. that, your proper punk leather biker jacket, it takes 4 years to wear in one of those.
Absolutely right.
At least, to get it just where it's just starting,
Yeah.
And Iggy would say every night, "Go wear your jacket on stage." No fucking way. No
Absolutely
way.
not.
Absolutely, you've got your own leather jacket. Because,
Yeah.
when he comes out and he does...
Yeah.
And then slings it off to the side,
Yeah.
Never lost a jacket.
Yeah.
Never, and it's like, I don't care. No, you're not mine.
And that
no.
was kind of a standard move that he would make
Yeah,
from
and that was
show to
the
show
start
to
of
show.
the thing. Yeah, and that was his little
yeah.
routine.
Yeah.
His little starting thing. And we finally get to London, which was the last 3 shows. And oh God, we do the first show. The second show comes, and it's like. First show, after the first show, I find out that I have to find a new place to live because the tour manager who got fired told me I can't live there anymore. So that
Oh.
sucked.
Yeah.
It was like, damn, get to the second show. And it's like, Iggy's like, Iggy's locked himself in the dressing room. It's like, he's locked himself in the dressing room. What's going on, And I'm at front of house position queuing follow spots,
Yeah.
House has gone to black, and it's Tana, Iggy wants you in the dressing room. And this is at the Music Machine in London. I don't know if anyone out there is familiar with it, but
About 1,000-seater, probably over capacity.
well, 15, and they had probably 2 in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's jammed in
way
like
jammed.
sardines.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And to get from the front of house, you really just got to fight your way through the crowd.
Yeah.
Get to the stage left side and have someone pull you up onto the stage. That's sort of it. So I'm doing this with a leather jacket on. The house has been called to black. It's like, what the hell's going on? Last thing you want to hear is you want it in the dressing room after the house has gone to black. It's like
So many things I imagine were running through your head
it's
at
like,
that
no,
moment.
this is all wrong.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is so
yeah.
wrong. Wrong direction. We're supposed to be coming to the stage, not away from the stage.
Exactly.
What's
Exactly.
going on.
Yeah.
And you run upstairs, and there's like in the hallway, and there's just this menagerie of people, and it's like, what the hell's going on, And the whole tour, Iggy had been sort of pining for David, because they never made up. He never came to any shows, and and it was a big thing. It was a big thing. While we were in Berlin, we had 5 days in Berlin, 3 shows,
Yeah.
and I think that was all. He'll turn up, and he never turned up, and it was like, oh God, and it had become a huge problem. You know what I mean?
He was feeling it some kind of way about it.
He was feeling it.
Yeah,
He was like, he was slighted. He was let down. He was, it was like a bad breakup. And so I get to the dressing room. They've gone, get him out. You've got to get him on the stage. And I said, well, hell yeah, we're going to have a riot for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
So bang on the door. And he opens the door and he's got that grin on his face, and it's like, oh Jesus. And he goes, he grabs me and he pulls me in and shuts the door and locks it. And I'm like, and he's like, that'll show him. And I went, them, I'm one of them.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
one of them.
yeah,
Get to the
yeah.
goddamn stage. He's gone, no. I've got to show you. I want you to meet someone. I want you to meet someone. And I'm pissed at this point. I'm almost passing out. I'm dripping in sweat. I've got my leather jacket on. It's like, 100 degrees. And it's just like, I've got no time for this whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it's like, James Osterberg, you need to get your ass onto that stage.
Right.
That was I'm not playing around anymore,
Yeah,
James
when
Osterberg.
you call him by his actual name, he's in trouble. He should
James
know.
Osterberg, exactly. Like his mum.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
But, and he's like, can we talk about this on the...
Yeah. You can say anything in this.
So he's got this mirror, and he's got three white lines of something on it,
Yeah.
and a note rolled up, and he does one, and he passes it to me, and there's 2 there. And I kind of look in the corner, and there's this guy stood in the corner,
Yeah.
and he's got this hat on and a coat. And all I could think was, you know what? Screw him. It's his fault I'm doing this. So I do both of them.
Yeah.
And just as I do both, and I look up, Iggy's grabbed the guy over, and he's gone, I want you to meet David Bowie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, and so I just went, gave him the mirror and the note, and grabbed Iggy and ran out of the dressing room and down to the stage. It was like, oh God.
Unceremoniously dissed David Bowie.
But it gets worse.
Yeah, it
Karma,
does.
instant karma.
Yeah.
Because I've got my leather jacket on, and I look at the audience, and I've gone, I can't fight my way through. So I take it off, I shove it under the monitor desk, dive off the stage, get out to the stage, and like the band is starting, and I've got my headsets on, but I'm facing the follow spots because the stage is back here.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get them to shut up. They're all talking. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone stop. Mics off, mics off, mics off. And I'm trying to get all the cues started for them and get them in position and get them all back on track, because they're all over the place.
Sure.
And then this one guy's just gone, oh, what a drag. Iggy just lost his leather jacket into the audience. And I turn around just to see the sleeve of my jacket slither into the pit. And it's like,
oh, man. Oh, I bet you're pissed.
oh. And what do? You can't leave.
No.
And it's the show's on. And it's like, so I had to spend the whole show just fuming, just fuming, just fuming.
Wring his little neck.
Oh, God, yeah. And it was, the security guys, they tried. It was hilarious. By the end of it, they had about 100 punks lined up against the wall with leather jackets on. It's like, no, that's not it, that's not it, that's not it. They tried.
Yeah.
But, and Iggy's manager's like, oh, here's 50 quid, get over it.
Right.
At which point a crate of beer, those Grolsch beers?
Of course, with the little, yeah.
Those wooden crates they come in?
Absolutely. You expressed your displeasure.
He did. Ripped up his 50 pounds and threw it at him. Stormed off. So, yeah. So I always joke and say, Iggy, you still owe me a leather jacket.
Go to his apartment in Florida and get him to cough it up.
Absolutely. But you've got to love him,
Oh, absolutely.
You still love him.
No, he thinks in a unique way. He presents himself. He's in a weird way. He's one of the smartest guys I've ever met.
Yeah.
And in another way, he's such a guttural. He's just a very complex individual and extremely talented and fun. And frankly, I think that when I saw him last was 4 or 5 years ago. And it was striking. He was still out there doing his thing. It's like he doesn't age. There's some visual age thing going on, but it's really slight. And the way he projects is, it's not much different from what you experienced.
Yeah.
And
It's probably quitting drugs and eating vegan and.
well, those things have to be a benefit, no doubt.
Yeah, those things help, but sometimes it's a little late.
Yeah. Good point. Very good point. I'm going to ask you a question that all these questions are out of my curiosity, but many of them are well more realized, and you're doing great in the book. And I really highly suggest that you check this book to get more of the detail of it in the book loud. It's extraordinary. But there's a guy that we share in common. There's actually a few that we share in common, work history. And to me, he was extremely formative in my career and the mentorship of whatever it is I am now. And that was Benny Collins. You got to experience time with Benny Collins and one of his brightest moments. Talk to us about your experience with
Michael Jackson.
Yeah, he's out doing Michael Jackson.
Yeah,
That's right. Production manager for Michael Jackson.
Yeah, and I was back in Australia at the time, briefly. And so it was good. I got referred through the Bill Graham people,
Sure.
take her on. So he put me in the production office with him, which was nice. So that was a good way to watch Benny and get to know him and get to know him well. And it was just a pleasure, just a huge pleasure.
He was a singular kind of guy.
He really was,
just the Wolfman.
Just gentle and kind and generous, a generous person. I mean, you don't mess with him.
Well, he was the size of a house, and he had that room. The boys, the boy. Let's do a chant. It was like, yes, Betty. What? I don't know, man.
That was pretty good, actually.
Thank you. And we were at his last loadout. It was sad as hell, but Herbie was there. Everybody was there, and Herbie just passed. Herbie's got his thing coming up on the 4th. I guess it's in a day or two.
Oh, wow.
Herbert.
Oh, yeah.
He's a big producer journey and had a lot to do with getting Benny moved up to the ranks.
Oh, nice.
And so, but we were all at the last loadout, and I'm not prone to, getting watery or misty, but man, it was just the who's who was there, and they were all sharing stories of Benny, and it was just no way to not feel it.
Yeah.
And it's good to have such a great man in the presence, lost to the industry.
There's been some amazing people that have driven this industry over the decades, and you're just really fortunate if you get to cross paths with, one of them or a few of them, let alone a bunch of them, And I think, I've been really fortunate by living, in Australia and England and Europe and here, that I've sort of managed to cross all oceans and the different versions of people in different countries, or people who hold that hierarchy position, that are really revered. And I've just been really fortunate that those people have seen something in me that's, that is worth their time, So I'm sort of happy with that. I'm really happy with that.
Yeah, you should be proud of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is. It's really,
well, I know
it makes it worthwhile.
Benny was a guy that didn't suffer fools lightly, and
No.
he could spot talent a mile away.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of his strongest suits. He
Yeah.
could see something in you maybe you didn't even see in yourself.
Yeah.
And he would lift people up if he thought there was worth in them. And there's no way that you could have had that time with Benny if you weren't, capable and highly just a good person.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad you got to know him, because
Me too. Yeah,
he was
absolutely.
an extraordinary cat.
Wish there'd been more of it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. You got a big thing coming up. I think we're actually loosely affiliated with it. I think some of our gear is going to be used to help support this soundgirls.org virtual conference that's
Yeah,
coming up.
yeah.
That's very exciting.
On the 4th and the 5th.
Yes,
yeah,
ma'am.
Saturday, Sunday.
I think the great Don Lister is going to take time with you, and
He is.
yeah, I'll be very interested to see his approach versus mine. I can't help myself, this narcissistic jerk. But Don will do. He's a badass, and I think he prefers to be called Daniel. I always
Daniel,
call him,
yeah.
and Daniel Lister Keller.
That's correct.
But he's an extraordinary cat, and this should be a lot of fun for you. This is December 5th. I highly suggest everybody tune in. This is something they can go to soundgirls.org and find.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's, I believe, a multi-day thing.
Yeah, it's Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
And you can register. And the other good thing about it is that, when you get your registration, you can watch whatever you want to watch live, but then you can actually play back the whole thing as well. So you're not going to miss anything.
Very good.
So you can go back multiple times and check it out. And so it's quite a learning thing. I'm doing a mentoring panel as well.
Oh, really?
And I'm telling, different people that I've mentored so far, or, up and coming people that I'm speaking with, go to a session that you wouldn't normally go to, something that you don't really necessarily know much about, but you might be curious, and check it out. And it's more of this broadening and opening up, and seeing what else is out there,
Yeah.
What else can I learn, because that's what it's about, because you can go back and do the ones that you feel safe with.
Yes.
They're there. They're going to be there.
Yeah.
But get out there, and while it's live, you can ask questions, and
Yes.
and you can see and take part with it. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity.
There's some extraordinary people involved. I believe Carrie Keys is involved, and if I'm not mistaken, Chris Leonard's going to be a speaker on this.
I think so. Yeah, I think he's on it too.
And then I think Bradley Maddox and Craig Price are going to use this very gear and do some kind of little contribution to
Yeah,
it. And
yeah, I heard that.
between them, they're 75 years of badassery. Two of the top mix engineers.
Absolutely.
But it should be a lot of fun. I have to ask you quickly about. Back in the day, you're rooming with a good friend, and I believe her daughter or son. I believe it was her son, maybe, and Australia, and you had a problem with a reoccurring peeping Tom.
Oh.
Now, I love this story. This is very fun for me because I'm imagining it. I'm reading it, and my mind's turning it into pictures.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about how you dealt with that?
Yeah, my first encounter with pyro.
His too, probably.
Where I decided this is fun. I should actually get into this maybe, but they didn't let me after this.
Why? What did you bet? Tell me your story.
So I was on tour, and my roommate kept calling me saying, "We've got a peeping Tom." And she had a small boy, her son at the time, who was about 5, Shannon. And so, it was a concern, I mean, if it was her, then, she could get some people over and stuff. But, his room was at the back of the house, hers was at the front. It was like one of these things, and I'm like, I'm on tour. Unless you're going to put him on the phone, what the hell am I going to do? I don't know what to do with it. But when I get home, if he's still around, we'll address it. So it's how do we address it? You call the police, they don't do anything,
Sure.
So it was like, okay, so what do we do? So I figured out that if we put flash pods under every window, it was like it was a house with a big yard, and all, ground level. So what I did was I put a flash pod under every single window thinking just in case, whichever window he went to, then we'd be covered.
Yeah.
And then I daisy chained them all together because
Maniacal.
because we didn't know where we were going to be at the time,
Right.
so we best cover all bases, And sure enough, the poor guy, a couple of nights into it, he turns up, and it's like, and actually my bedroom, and he's actually like through the window like this, which was kind of creepy. And so I just reach over and hit the switch. Boom, the whole house lifted. It was like, boom, boom. And all the curtains like blew out of all the windows. I mean, to give you an idea of the percussion that happened.
Yeah, yeah, awesome.
And I just remember seeing the look on his face. He was like, and then as he flew backwards, and it was like, oh my God, we got him, and so we're all laughing, and he took off over the fence, and so, and there's smoke everywhere, and it's gunpowder. I mean, they didn't, this was none of your prepackaged pyro.
No.
This was like, I went out and got a bag of this shit and scooped it into these little tin tray things, and bare wires into it,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
there was
Old
nothing.
school.
Yeah, there was no control whatsoever. And and we're thinking it's the funniest thing and it's the best thing we've ever done. The house is full of smoke. It's like, oh my God, we're having a drink to celebrate, at whatever time, at 2 a.m. or whatever it was, all of a sudden there's
Johnny Law.
Yeah, Johnny Law. And we're like, oh, okay, hang on. Let's look sleepy, pretend we're asleep.
Yeah.
As we open the door to these police officers and this cloud of smoke comes out. And they're just like, what have you done? Nothing, officer. You're the only house in a 4-block radius that hasn't called in that a bomb's exploded. What have you done?
Yeah.
What's going on? So we tell you, it's like we had a peeping Tom. We didn't. What are 2 young girls meant to do? Not blow the fucking neighborhood up.
Yeah. It resolved it.
It's like, and I said, well, exactly, you guys. And they're like, and they dressed us down. They went through the house, made sure I didn't have any more explosives.
Yeah.
Which was a bit of a shame, but anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And, and as they're leaving, one guy says to the other, well, we'll never find him now. I said, well, actually, I think you should probably go to the nearest hospital.
Yeah.
I said, I think you might find him. And sure enough, there he was.
With some strategic burns that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. How did that happen to your crutch, sir? Well.
I can't think of a more poetic, and it's so fucking good.
But needless to say, I was not allowed to do pyro after that. Which was a shame because I thought, this could be good.
It's fun, right? Pyro Pete Cappadocia out here.
I know.
It's a thing, it gets in your blood. You just see, if you would have started yet, it would have been hard to stop.
I know. I'm always jealous of Pete, actually. It's like,
oh, and Pete, man, he loves his job so much.
Yeah.
He just gets so off on just blowing shit up all the time. He's so good at it.
I know. He's a little bit of a hero to me.
Yeah,
he doesn't know it, but he is.
Yeah, well, he's one of my favorite Republicans. Let's put it that way. I don't have a lot of those, so.
With purple beards.
I can get down with Pete regardless of his crazy notions because he blows shit up real pretty.
Exactly.
Listen, like I mentioned, I want to beg all of you to let me do another hour of this because I have so much stuff here and I barely scratched the surface and we're kind of up against the time and I'm not sure how to handle this because I want to ask you about the Who. You got to go do a show, a really kind of important show with the Who. There's many shows that the Who have done are really monumental and important in rock and roll history, but the one that came immediately after the passing of Keith Moon,
right,
that's kind of a big deal.
That was a huge deal, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we went into rehearsals, and Kenny, Kenny Jones was the new drummer, so we had to rehearse him and keep that quiet and they sort of locked us in. We did a shut-in for rehearsals. They owned Shepperton Studios, so we were rehearsing there, obviously. And when it came time for the load-in at Wembley
Stadium, 80,000 people.
80,000 people.
Yeah.
And it was, it was a moment for me. It's, we don't do this really because as as it's our job, you just steam into a venue,
Yeah.
you start, you don't ever stop and look around and go,
Yeah.
I mean, you get a little bit of a glimpse of Red Rocks or something and go, oh yeah, it's cool,
Wow.
but you don't,
Made it. Yeah.
it's.
But then you play right through and get back to work.
Exactly, So, but this was kind of like a point in my career where I actually felt that I belonged, that I'd made it, sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
that's great.
yeah, it was like 6 in the morning, coming in, and there's trucks everywhere, and I'm waiting on the rigger, so I'm doing the ground stuff for him, and he's up in the roof, and one's up in the roof, the other one's doing his boxes, and we're laying everything out. And I'm just standing and looking off the front of the stage, and there's like mist and everything, and it was kind of cool,
Yeah.
And I sort of looking at it going like, wow, these guys have sold out 80,000, which was huge in those days.
Sure,
It was
big time.
huge, 80,000 for one show, one band.
Yeah.
And I thought, they've definitely freaking killed this, And then I sort of thought about it, and I thought, does that mean I've killed it too because I'm working for it?
Hell yes, it does.
And it kind of does, you know what I
Yes.
mean? And
Hell yes, it
so
does.
that was kind of a little moment where I thought, oh, maybe I can breathe for a minute, maybe I'm okay here,
Yeah.
But up until that point, it had been pretty much frantic.
Yeah, going,
just
going. Sometimes some doubts. Am
Don't
I doing
stop.
the right thing with my life? Am I spending my time well?
Don't stop. They might not hire me again.
Yeah.
But then it was like, well, hang on, they requested me for this show. This
Yeah.
is kind of cool.
Yeah,
So
And you
that
were
was
in
a cool
charge of
moment.
things, and
Yeah,
you were making
yeah.
stuff happen.
Yeah.
No, that's an amazing
Yeah,
time.
it
And
was
then they
good.
went and they put on a hell of a show, from what I
Oh, it
understand.
was amazing.
All
And
right.
AC/DC was on the bill, so that was cool.
Yeah. You got to catch up with Bon and so
Yeah,
on,
that
right?
was the last time I got to see Bon.
Yeah, that's
before he
kind of
died.
sad. See, another lane to go
And
down.
Jimmy McCulloch as well was
I
at that
know,
show.
Yeah, that was he. Yeah, that story over there is.
Yeah.
Again, the stories in the book, the things we just referred to with Jimmy and Bon, we just don't have the time to go into it now, and I hate that because there's so many good stories in here. This amazing woman resuscitated Bon after an accidental mishap with the periodic table. Do you like how I did that?
Yes.
That's good. And brought him back to life so we could have him for longer, although his things happened, as we all know, and he went away sometime after that. But there's so many amazing moments in this book. There's so many amazing things that you've accomplished. I love this book. I highly recommend that we go out and you guys get this book. It's called Loud. It's by the great Tana Douglas. It's incredible. It's an incredible read, and I cannot recommend it enough. It's an incredibly wonderful book. It really digs into the heart, the meat and potatoes of what it truly is to be on both sides, working for a band and the intimacies and the things that you see in the relationships you develop there. And then, of course, working the more from the production side and the company side, like Tasco and the many other great things that you've accomplished. It's amazing. Do you have any advice for up-and-comers, particularly I hate to do this, but you have special information
Sure.
from the female persuasion, the female side of it. Is there any special advice you can give to my audience and females out there, that way that they can come and be successful in this business, they can deal with some of the challenges that I know you've had to deal with, and go out there and take the tiger by the tail and kick some ass?
Yeah, just have faith in yourself. Believe in yourself. Don't let anybody tell you you're not good enough. So have faith in yourself and ask questions. Learn as much as you can. Be a sponge. Suck everything up. Every little bit of knowledge is going to help you. And choose your fights. Don't think you've got to go in there thrashing and kicking and screaming. You don't. Just go in and prove yourself by the work that you do. That's the best thing you can do. That's the best message you can show to a crew that you're working with, whether you're female or not.
That's right.
I mean, I say to people that, do your work as a crew member, not as a female.
Yes.
Meaning not to undermine the female side, but be accepted as a member of a crew, not because you're a female, but because you're a member of that crew, because that's what it's about. Yeah. It's all about, it's a camaraderie thing. It's relying on each other. It's having to be able to depend on each other.
That's right.
And it shouldn't matter if you're a male or a female for that. If they can do that, if people can rely on you and stuff,
Yes.
it doesn't matter.
I couldn't agree
It doesn't
with you more.
matter. Yeah.
And that gives me some hope because I, as a manager, a person that manages and delegates people, and organizes delegation, so on and so forth, administration. I really do try to do that with my female crew. We have 3, and I just talk to them like they're the guys.
Yeah.
Not in any of the pejorative guy bullshit that we get
Yeah.
up to, but you know what I mean. When it
No,
comes to the
absolutely.
work is just the work.
Yeah.
You're here.
Yeah.
You've accepted the position. You have certain attributes.
Yeah.
You came. I wouldn't have hired you if that didn't pencil. But it makes sense on the resume. And from that point on, you're one of us. And
Exactly.
and we played. We really try to play a gender blind thing here.
Yeah. You've got to
And-
fit in.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, and it seems to work out pretty well. And I mentioned to you on the phone, from my experiences, many of the females I've worked with have a better ear from the audio perspective and work harder and are much more manageable. So there's just no reason not to.
Win-win.
Yeah, right. So listen, it's been such an honor. It's such a treat to have you here, and I really appreciate the extra effort that you put into coming and seeing us. I know you had to take a little drive from LA, and that's not often easy with the way the traffic works nowadays.
You know what? It was fun, and it was totally worth it. And I'm so glad. Thank you for having me. I mean, it's an honor to be here.
You're
you know.
very sweet. Thank you so much. I cannot recommend this book enough. Please go out and buy this book, Loud by Tana Douglas. Keep an eye out for the documentary coming up. It's an extraordinary read. If you're in this business and you don't have this book, you're fucking up. That doesn't put it out there. Thank you again. It was
He
lovely
means
having you. I don't ever say anything I don't fucking mean. As simple as that. It was lovely. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Listen, guys, I know you got a million places that you could be. There's 1,000 choices out there. You got your YouTube and your Hulu and your HBO and all that bullshit that's available. We do this. We do it for free from our hearts. We mean it. We care about what we do. We believe in this industry. We believe in wonderful people like Tana, who's done amazing things. My good friend who just went out and entertained probably 400,000 or 500,000 people around the country for a few months. I mean, we really put the work in. We try our asses off. We do it for you, and we hope you appreciate it. We do this every Thursday, at least when I'm not in the hospital, and we got a couple things coming up.
We're gonna get a bed put in with a drip.
It was really, bro. I was seeing shit, man.
We hit
It was,
the bag
it was really
underneath the
bad. I had
table,
like blood. I was
guys.
like, ah. There was a minute we thought we were gonna die.
Oh, God.
It just broke myself.
Yeah, we'll just laugh it
Anyway.
off. Don't worry, Vinny.
Next week, we've got the one and only Frank Scambelloni. He's a badass. Now, he's a mix engineer for Luke Byron and all the big country acts, and he's just an incredible guy, a father, a husband, and an incredibly talented cat. He's going to come in here. He's going to tell us his stories. We're going to get down. It's going to be a good time. I appreciate you coming out here and checking us all out. I'd like to thank you from all of us here at the crew. I would like to once again thank my good friend Jeff Linder for stepping in and switching the switches and doing the thing.
Jeffrey.
Badass.
Yay.
And he's the one. And we want to thank and hope Mikey Brown, who the octopus, that he's having a good time and well-deserved time off, and we can't wait to get him back. Until next Thursday, be kind, be good to each other, and kind to yourselves. We will see you next week. Good night.